Yeah.
But it is true that when you walk into a business, you feel that culture right away. And that if a culture has grit and resilience, it's probably been a business that's been there a while. Mm-hmm. And if it does not, there's lots of turnover. All the things that we look at where we're seeing culture that's not a great business culture are present when grit is not present.
Yeah.
That's the point I think she's making scientifically.
Yeah. One of the things I've noticed in all of her examples, and she kind of says it, not overtly that I can tell, is that somebody has to have a really robust vision to kind of go, look, this is where we want to be. Here's why we want to be there. The Seahawks are a great example of that. Of course, every pro football team wants to win the Super Bowl, but 31 of them, or how many teams are there?
You got it.
Is there 32?
Yeah.
So 31 of them don't figure it out. Mm-hmm. One of them does, and there's a reason they do, and often, and they all have some. Hey, what are we doing here? Well, we want to win the Super Bowl, but really, there's some other competing vision that saps some of that drive, energy, unity, whatever.
Unity, I think, is often what it is, because everybody's got an agenda, right?
Yeah.
So, some of those guys, their goal isn't to win a Super Bowl and be part of that culture. Their goal is to maximize, their influence, maximize their take-home pay and whatever it is that they're trying to accomplish outside. The game is a means to an end.
Yeah.
And I think what Pete Carroll's saying in his culture, that the game's not a means to an end. Like, this is why you're here.
Yes.
And if you're not here for this, then you're not thinking like we do, and therefore you're not on the team.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the point I'm trying to make, is that Pete Carroll laid down a hard line. Mm-hmm. And said, we are going to be like this. And he embodied that. He's like, this is how it's going to be. And he got, one of the things that really struck me was how when she went out there to work with them, that the coaches would break into these spontaneous chants almost. Mm-hmm. It's like a cult. I mean, it's a cult.
They're repeating a mantra, right?
Yeah. But they all drank the Kool-Aid, so to speak, where they're like, we're all in on
very
this.
Culty. You're going with very culty imagery.
That's right.
It's just football.
That's right.
Great point.
Well, and they, and even though, winning's a big deal, it seemed like, as she talked about that team, that they enjoyed the unity as much or more than winning. That was the feel, or I call it the afterglow almost. So we're part of something way bigger than ourselves.
One of the enemies that they're fighting against as a team is discord, right? And so the culture and the mantras and the beliefs and all the posters and sayings that are up all over the buildings and all that stuff, all that's designed to reinforce that unity and to keep discord at bay. Yeah. And, they went through something, he personally went through something, and the book does a good job of working through this, where in one year they win the Super Bowl, the next year they're on the cusp, literally the inch line of winning the Super Bowl. They have widely believed to be the best at the time running back in the NFL, and Marshawn Lynch. Beast Mode, is his nickname, right? And there's a call on at the end of the game. You got one play to make it work and to try for a touchdown to win the game, and he calls a pass play that doesn't work. A higher risk, low percentage play versus handing it off to Beast Mode guy, letting him do the job. And, he receives so much criticism for that. I mean, you know how fans are. They're just very understanding and welcoming. No, they were...
As long as you're winning.
They were brutal. They were brutal to him, and he had to withstand all of that hate. One of the great parts of being a leader is getting to withstand all of that hate and prove your mettle. But he had a really good point of view on it, when talking about it, that was a very defining and learning thing. He looked at it as, this is a learning opportunity.
Yeah.
How do we build this culturally, see it through our culture, and then all get better from it, while he didn't shy away from the accountability for his making the call. And I respected the way that he handled it. Of course, they haven't been back to the Super Bowl since, so these things do have consequences and accountability to them. At the same time, he handled it, I think, healthfully as a human, it seems.
Yeah.
Which ultimately is more important, right?
Yeah, I think so. Well, so he was able to kind of cast a vision for the team and embody that vision. There was something she talked about in the parenting section, imitate versus emulate, or imitate leads to emulate. And you see that with Pete Carroll's stuff. You see it with the North Carolina stuff. You see it with the West Point stuff. She talks about, what's his name? Jamie Dimon, the Chase Bank guy. Where they all do a great job of saying, this is how we're going to do this. This is how we're going to act. This is where we're going and why. And then folks, I'm not going to say imitate. I think that's like a little kid thing, like a 2 or 3 year old. But they begin to emulate. They go, oh, all right, we're going to act like that? Okay. And they through, I would say, through respect, through trust, not, authoritarianism or coercion. They kind of go, get folks to follow them and get folks to go, okay, I think I believe you. I want to act like that too. And that was really interesting to see that. I don't know, case study might be a little strong, and when you're talking about a business, this is a huge problem with a business, is the soft culture. And I would say soft in the way of like not reliable, spotty culture, or self-serving culture, or
occasional culture. Culture of convenience. Yeah. I believe in these things as long as they serve this moment.
Yeah. And I see it a lot of times with an owner or a leader where they're complaining about the culture.
They are the culture.
They are the culture. It's like, well, buddy, you're kind of like saying this, but your real reason is this.
I think that's such a hard thing that you have to keep thinking about as a leader of anything. Yeah. If you're complaining about something and it's unconstructive, then you know that's happening elsewhere in your business, amongst your team, amongst clients, maybe. And so because you're the leader, so you have to be very conscious of the actions and have message discipline and thoughts. To your point, as a communications person, I have to see it through that view. Part of the challenge is like, am I staying on message? If I believe this and this is who I am I finding every opportunity I can to reintroduce it, introduce it, validate it, continue to preach the same thing, because it takes a long time for people to internalize that. Some people have a superpower where they can hear something once and internalize it, and then it becomes part of how they view things and how they do things. We have a couple people on the FSM team that are so good at that, and I admire that as a superpower. But most people don't have that. Yeah. That's why it's an elite way to do things. Most people, it takes a long time, and they have to kind of wrestle with it, or they're toe dipping into it, or they're deciding if they believe or not. They don't have enough experience to know if it's the right thing, and so they're having to extend a lot of trust, and maybe they're not trustworthy, yet, because they're insecure about something. So there's a lot of just like mental goop that goes on with this stuff, which is why the only thing you can control as a leader is, are you on message? Are you being consistent with your actions and what you're saying and how you're holding people accountable? Yeah. That's the only thing you can control, but that is the culture. That is what you're creating.
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of leaders are a little split on what their true motivation is. And I think the folks in the organization can sense that. And they're kind of calling BS when the leader goes, hey, everybody needs to be bought in on blah, blah, blah. And this is why we need to have this gritty, buy-in. And I think folks are like, yeah, so you can sell the company, or so you can
make more money, buy another car,
or whatever. Yeah. And they don't believe it.